Hey girls, Maria Menounos here, author of the Every Girl's Guide to Life. Want to know my best tips and secrets for organization, travel, weight loss, beauty, fashion, and everything else in between? Go to bing.com/Maria and pick up my new book, The Every Girl's Guide to Life.
You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, and streaming live on Ustream, this is AFTERBUZZ TV for 16 and pregnant. Tonight's host is Mari Fagel. Joining Mari will be AFTERBUZZ co-hosts Isabel Mora, Courtney Stewart, and Ed Bowling. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest 16 and pregnant news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, picking up where the show leaves off and the buzz continues, Mari Fagel!
Hi, everyone. I can't wait to break down this episode with Kianna, Zak, and Kayden, Ed, and Isabel. I'm excited to be back here because last week you guys did Isabel alone, correct?
No. Remember, they had the MTV gift booth, that the groundbreaking live broadcast that they had for a couple days from the W Hotel lobby, and they had actually, a whole different set of hosts that did the AfterBuzz show for last week's episode. So we didn't even do it at all. None of us.
Ed and Isabel, both of you, I'm happy to have all three of us back to discuss Kianna. And this, every week we talk about what was the episode that made, why they chose this girl, what made her different, what set her apart. So we'll get into it, but I think it was the fact that Kianna struggled with adoption and whether or not to put her baby up for adoption. So we'll talk about that. Let me give a quick intro into Kianna before I get your opinion. So she is a 17-year-old Fort Worth, Texas girl. She loves football. She lives with her mom. She doesn't speak to her father, and she dates Zak, a football player who's 15 years old. So at 17 years old, she's somewhat of a cougar with a 2-year younger boyfriend. And he seems a little young and immature. He is 2 years younger than her. And the shocking thing to me was he doesn't even have a license to drive yet. So what did you think about Kianna and Zak?
Isabel?
Well, I don't know. It was, I didn't, out of this episode, I didn't get much out of it. It was just this, there wasn't much into it. I mean, aside from the adoption, I didn't.
Right. It's the first one where, that I'm aware of, where the father is younger than the mother.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So that immediately, when she announced that he was 15, okay, that was like in the forefront of my mind the entire show. I'm just sitting there the whole show watching, going, wow, the dude's 15. That means, by the way, that last year he was 14. And I'm just going.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking that means he was 14 last year, and I don't know why 14 sounds so much younger, but thinking that he was 14 last year just really makes me think, oh my God, he's so young.
Yeah, so young, 15. So that was actually my thing that I was going to suggest as sort of one of the reasons why she got picked. It was because the dad is 2 years younger, and there's going to be just tons of just amazing things for us viewers to see and marvel at, for a 15-year-old to be the dad to, with the mom being 17, etc. So.
Yeah, so that was one major issue here. And the other was the adoption. We'll get into that in a second. But I wanted to talk about, we've seen this a little bit so far in the season, but a very honest conversation about abortion when Kianna was speaking with her mom, who herself was a teen mother.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, I want to get your quick opinion on this. Did her mom not look so young? I mean, she must only be, like 32 years old, 33. She looked so young.
She looked really young. And when I first saw her on screen, I immediately assumed that was one of her girlfriends.
Right.
That's how young she looked.
Oh,
She looked like she was one of the girls that was her friend. So yeah, really young looking mom. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, so basically, same old kind of story that we've been seeing. She was on birth control. She claimed she didn't take her birth control for 3 days.
Right.
And that's why she got pregnant after dating Zach for 2 months.
Right.
And she did not tell her mom that she got pregnant because she was considering abortion. And her mom said, how did this happen? I took steps to prevent this from happening. I didn't want this for you. I told you how hard it was to be a teen mom. And then Kianna says, I didn't tell you because I was going to take care of it, but I changed my mind. So what did you guys think about that conversation? I thought it was very honest and one that was good to show for the viewers.
Well, in a way, I felt that there was some honesty there coming from, with regard to what they were saying. I somehow felt like, and I think maybe this is true, and it could just be a required part of every episode, but felt a little disingenuous because, this is a talk that they already had before the cameras were there. This is where the mom says, I can't believe you're pregnant. They probably, they stage that, right? They say, hey, why don't you guys talk about what it was like when you, and then somehow it looks like we're there for that initial conversation. But what I found interesting was the fact that the mom, see, it's one thing to be open to possibilities and kind of support the child and whatever is the best and whatever they decide. But I just felt like she was a little too ready to, be okay with abortion or be okay with adoption, anything that was gonna, I don't want to say get rid of the child, but it just seemed like she was just too ready and willing to do anything that would alleviate them of the burden.
Right.
So to
me,
I
understand that. She said, and she said this continuously throughout the episode, I was a teen mom. It's difficult. It's hard. You're going to struggle. I didn't want this for you. I tried to prevent this. So I understand why she would accept something that wouldn't put her daughter in the same outcome she had.
Yeah, I guess. You know what? And that's probably my personal feelings mixing in there just because, I guess regardless of circumstance, I'd rather see the child be wanted, and that's not really coming from a practical, I admit it's not a practical perspective. But
and also, I don't think the mom she knew that once the baby came into the world and into their home, she was going to be the main person providing for this baby.
Yeah. She said, listen, this is you guys made this decision and you guys did this. I don't want it to be a financial burden on me, she said. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess she's got a right to say that and have her opinion do it. I don't think I would say that. I don't think I would be trying to make divisions and establish.
But she probably didn't have her mom financially supporting her. And she said, you guys created this situation. Those were her words.
Yeah.
You guys created this situation. You handle it. She didn't create the situation. She did everything she could to prevent it. Right. So why should she end up with the financial burden of it?
Well, I would question whether she did everything she could. She at least communicated to her daughter, and the daughter was on birth control, so there was at least that.
She at least, got her on birth control. I mean, what else can you do? You can't be standing over the sink every morning saying, take your birth control pill.
I think that's exactly what you can do. I think that is exactly what you do. If you are a parent to a minor who is in your house every single day, you can schedule the pill taking process to be at a time when you guys are both there.
She should know how to take it every day on her own.
Of course she should know how. But look what happened. The child is not a full adult, not on her own.
So what's next? Stand next to the guy and watch him put a condom every time he's going to have sex.
Well, then there's the whole intimacy intrusion there.
Okay.
But if you schedule the pill to be taken at like 9:00 at night, and then you're
out on a date, you make sure you come home and watch your daughter take the pill.
You got to make decisions. You got to make sacrifices. Do you want to be pregnant or do you want to not be pregnant? I'm just saying, don't say that somebody did everything they could when there's like a couple more things they could do, albeit maybe extreme, they can still be done.
Wait, Okay, I'm just not going to bring personal
I
issues.
think she did everything she could. She talked to her daughter honestly about her own struggles. She didn't glorify it. She talked to her honestly about it. She got her the pill, which is much more than I can say for so many other mothers. And honestly, I really don't think it's their responsibility to be there every night telling them to take the pill. She's 17. She's not 5. She knows how to take a pill daily.
But obviously, she knows how, but she didn't, and then as a result, they have this, unplanned.
I don't think she realized that missing 3 days was that big of a deal. But that's like something, I don't know. I'm still baffled by the fact that they don't know these things. This is something that, yes, the mom, but also her gynecologist should have discussed with her.
Well, what I think is not that they thought, oh, it's okay, I only missed 3 days, but that the whole sort of real reality, like even after they took the pregnancy test and then, she sees that she's pregnant and the boyfriend is there, she described it that both of them were still in denial. I think it's one of those maturity things, and you don't, someone at their age, they have this ability to do something and not fully comprehend the consequences and the real reality that, okay, yeah, I might get pregnant, but it's almost like they're in denial and they think that, but it's not going to happen, or they don't really, really sort of digest the reality of it. And then you have this situation occur. So, yeah, they can know all the facts and all the words and definitions of everything they're doing and still do it and still be in shock and denial after. I think that's what we saw today.
Well, grown-ups do it, so
yeah,
it's easier, grown-ups do it, and here we're just blaming it on age, but look at how many women now, past 20, 25, have planned pregnancies.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah, I'm going to save that for another discussion. I think a lot of celebrity women have unplanned pregnancies, but I don't think they're so unplanned. But that's for another conversation. But let me get into adoption, because that was the major theme of this episode, which was one we have not seen yet this season, which is something I think is something that's vital to show, because that is a very viable option for many teen moms, and one we haven't seen this season. So basically, after discussing with her mom that she turned down the choice of abortion, she said that she was considering adoption. She said, I don't know how I'll graduate. She wanted to become a vet. She wouldn't know money-wise how to support the baby. Her and her boyfriend would both have to get jobs and stay in school for the same reason. There were several reasons why adoption could be right for her.
Well,
but the problem is, Zak, her boyfriend, is against adoption. He said, why do you think this baby would stop us from doing these things? It was kind of from a very immature young standpoint, which I can't blame him since he's only 15. But he said his dad wasn't there for him, and he didn't want his kid to be raised without a father. And then he pointed to his mom, who raised 3 kids by herself, working 2 jobs, and he used that to explain why he thought the 2 of them should keep the baby and that they would be fine. So in the end, Kianna decides to go along with Zak and keep the baby. So what did you think about their conversations and discussions about this and about their ultimate decision?
It was actually very, very interesting to pay close attention to what she said when she said it, and have to include actually the after show portion with this answer here. She gave 3 different reasons as to why she decided to not go with adoption. The first one we heard was when her friend, when she decided with Zak to keep the baby, and then she was excited to tell her friend, okay? And then when her friend said, well, why did you decide to keep it? Why did you decide not to go adopt? She said, I just decided that I wanted to keep my baby, okay? Then we go to when her mother said, when she announced it to her mother, and her mother said, why did you decide to not go with adoption? And she is teary-eyed and says, I don't know. And then in the after, and then the after show, she said, well, really the real reason is because Zak was putting pressure on me to keep the baby. So, what can you say about that? Maybe they're all true to her at the time she's answering them, but to me, it's just a reflection of, and I don't mean it in a derogatory fashion, but a reflection of the maturity level. She's just too young to know any of this stuff. I mean, he was completely operating on sort of emotions, in my opinion, when he was trying to make the decision on whether to go with adoption, and she was trying to be the practical one. And she said, well, what about how are we going to have diapers? How are we going to have formula, everything we need. He said, we're going to have all that, but without, having some practical way to get
15.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what was so shocking to me. The most disgusting part of it, I thought, was when she said she was discussing adoption with him, and he said, "Oh, so you want the easy way out?" And I was thinking, are you kidding me? And then she responded, "Trust me, adoption is not easy." And then he was like, "But you may regret it." And so when she said in the after show that the reason she didn't do it was because Zak was pressuring her, I totally can see that. He was pressuring her. And the thing was, he's 15. He has no idea. And I really think that he pressured her into it.
And let's not forget his answer when, she said, he's going to need stuff. He goes, he's going to have toys. That's all he kept thinking. I'm like,
he was
just planning on sharing toys with his baby.
He had 15-year-old answers for sure.
He's like, I have toys. We can just share.
Well, what do we think about this whole adoption thing? I mean, okay, if I be just honest about it, the whole thing, it just seems sad to me. And I could probably listen to somebody tell me, well, but think about the child and the ability to provide.
What seems sad to you, that abortion was brought up, or that, abortion at all? I mean,
no, the adoption part.
I mean, I'm sorry, the adoption.
Yeah.
What was sad to you, that it was brought up?
You know what? To be honest,
they even thought about it.
Yeah, no, not just this show, but the whole concept of having a baby and then it going away to be with somebody else.
That's. I mean, I think since the show started, we all have our beliefs, and I don't believe in adoption. But since the show started, and we've seen in other seasons where people actually give up the baby for adoption, I've become someone that's become closer to it. And
really?
So, right, yeah. Especially
I want to ask you about why don't you agree with or believe in adoption?
I just think it's the way I was brought up, and to me, it's so unusual to see a family that's not there for you and that's not willing to just say, whatever happens, we're going to be there, we're going to help you. It's so unusual.
But what if they're not ready?
Right, but see, that's why you have parents. And
extended family.
I'm not used to not
structure.
ever having that around me. So I don't know what it's like to not have it. And when I see it in the shows, just like her mom's okay with giving up. If I even mentioned the word, adoption when I was pregnant or anything like that, my mom would have been like, okay, that's fine. He's mine. But there would never be a baby of anyone in my family running around somewhere. Someone from the family would take over. Right, it's so, to me, when I see shows like episodes like today, where the mom's so willing to just give up her grandchild, I get it. You're not ready, and I get it. The mom doesn't want to take over, but I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that feels like, and I try to separate my feelings and understand the whole the picture, and I still can't.
Right, and there's some situations out there where people on the outside can look and see that, okay, the parents are unfit for one reason or another.
Right.
Probably something really extreme, abuse, drugs, whatever. And then we've got the government agencies that will come in and remove the children because they're trying to act in the best interest of the child. But to have a situation occur where a 17-year-old, she's young and immature, and the dad is even more young and more immature, but to have them trying to decide if they're going to have the baby because of money, it just is a sad thing to me. It's sad to me, that would be a factor at all. And
when your mom doesn't, the mom didn't seem like she was someone that's doing drugs, or she seemed well put. This is a different situation than when we had Kayden and her boyfriend, who had to give the baby up for adoption. And obviously, when I saw that episode, I'm like, I'm so glad they did, because their parents, you can tell, were a total different extra mess on the side. But this episode, you have a mom who's, you can see is doing well for herself, maybe struggling a little, but doing well. Yeah. And yet she's not willing to, or didn't want to, Yeah, like what I said before, she was just it was way too easy for her to be open to adoption or abortion. She was just, to me, she was open to all that too easy. I just didn't like it. It's a personal thing. Right. Mari, it sounds like maybe you sort of think differently, right?
Well, because I want viewers and girls, if the show is going to claim that it's educational, then it educates women and educates young girls, and it should show all of the options. And I don't think it's right that the only time they've ever showed a girl who chose adoption was once in all 3 seasons. And I think they need to show the other viable options that girls have.
Wow. Well, yep, that's an option for sure.
That's why. I only feel that they should show it because if it's a show that claims that they're trying to educate women, then they should show all of the choices they have available to them. I'm not saying that she should put her baby up for adoption, but I'm saying if the show's going to show all the difficulties that teen moms have and struggle with, then that's something they need to highlight.
Yeah.
Well,
but let's talk.
I feel like they've
Sorry,
showed it. I feel like they have showed it enough. I mean, let's not forget also the
but
episode.
Just once. Kayden is the only girl.
There was another girl. There was another girl where the baby was actually adopted by the uncle and aunt, and that was that.
Oh,
see,
yeah.
And here we go again. That was actually. It still must have been as painful, but at least the baby stayed within the family.
Yeah.
So, and that was definitely
I'm
a
glad
different
they
option.
at least showed the discussion on it this episode because it's the first time in the season that anyone seriously discussed adoption.
True.
Right.
But she did decide to keep the baby, and we obviously all have our own opinions on that. But let's talk about the actual her giving birth to Kayden, because this was a little bit more of a difficult pregnancy than we've seen, because usually you'd think because they're so young, they have such seamless, easy pregnancies, but she actually had preeclampsia because she was so swollen.
Yeah.
And she was put on bed rest, and this isn't funny, but there was one funny moment, only because she had to continuously fill this jug with pee, and then she put a seatbelt on the jug of pee when she was driving to the hospital. I just thought that was funny as a side note. Yeah. But because of that, they checked her urine. She did indeed have preeclampsia, and she needed to be induced 3 weeks early. What I thought was insane, she was in labor for 17 hours.
Yes.
And then had an emergency C-section.
Right.
And I will say that Zak stayed by her side the whole time. He was there overnight. He had a broken arm from football practice, and he was there by her side the whole time. So, Isabel, I just wanted to ask you, because you've actually gone through the process, I don't know if you know anything about preeclampsia or what a 17-hour labor is like, but if you could tell us a little bit, highlight this for us.
I've never heard anything about preeclampsia, so I even Googled it. I wasn't sure what that was. Never heard anything about that. The labor pains, I was counting when they were, 13 hours, 14. I could not believe this poor girl had to go through that. I mean, I remember my experience. My water broke, and all I could be afraid of was, oh my God, those pains are going to come. They're going to come. They're going to show up. And I never really felt them. I don't know why. I mean, the nurse would come in and say...
How long were you in labor for?
My water broke at 3, and I didn't have my C-section till 10 o'clock. So a few hours. I didn't really feel the pain. They kept telling me, here comes another, I don't know, maybe I was able to tolerate it, but it never got that bad. And I was not dilating at all. That's why when they said it had been 15 hours and she had only dilated 1 centimeter, I could not believe they even waited longer for that. I'm like, she's not dilating. Just let her go. Poor girl, I knew once your water breaks, if you're not dilating, then they automatically know you're not going to dilate. So by 10, it's time to go. So I just had the C-section. So I fell for her. I mean, 17 hours. I can't even imagine that. And just to be told, oh, yeah, you went through all that, but now you're going to have a C-section.
Didn't she say, like, in the first couple hours, she's like, can't I just have a C-section and get it over with?
Yes, joking about it.
Yeah, well, that's what happened.
Yeah. So let's talk about Zak a little bit once baby Kayden was actually born. So she comes home with him. She's home with him for a month before she returns back to school. And a couple things that just stood out to me. I did think he was, for his age, given his age, I was worried when they first introduced him as a 15-year-old. I was like, oh, no, he's going to be one of those bad guys we've seen on so many episodes before. So I was very relieved to see that he was by her side. And as we saw in the after show, they are still together. He is still by her side. But given his age and his immaturity level, I'm not that surprised. He went and got his hair cut instead of going to school the day he saw the baby when the baby came back home. He doesn't even know how to put a diaper on weeks into it. and he didn't seem to really be listening to her. He was kind of mocking her a lot. So what did you think? I mean, I guess I'd pretty much cop it up to immaturity, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, he provided a strange sort of stability, I thought, because what I noticed about him was he sounded a lot older. Like
Right.
just when he talked, I mean, aside
Right.
from
and
the fact,
he looked a little older.
yeah, aside from the fact that they had to, they had to put subtitles the whole first
for
half
both
of the thing.
them, though, for both.
No, it was him. It was
No.
him. And he was mumbling or whatever in the beginning, and you couldn't understand what he was saying, so they subtitled it like he was speaking another language. That was a funny aspect. You talked about the peeing in the jar or whatever. That was funny to me. That like, okay, wait, he's speaking English. Why do we have subtitles? But in either case, he sounded older. He listened and he responded to what she said. Yeah, I think he had no clue how to really do the actions of a dad. But, he was at the mercy of getting a ride from his mom to come over there. So
did we not find it weird? Again, here we go. We don't know a lot. We're not, we get this, 30 minutes an hour. And I thought it was very weird how it was never discussed that he would move in. So there had to be something else there.
Yeah.
It was never discussed why he never moved in. Even at some point when she said, I have to have a talk with him, to get extra help, he said, if I could be there every day, I would be. And she said, yeah, I know you would. So I don't even know why she had that talk.
They left the show off saying, I wish you could be there 24/7 so we could be a family, not just on the weekends. Right. And the thing is, so many of the other episodes this season have been about where they're going to live together or how they're going to go through this together. And you're right. I don't know. There must be something else that they didn't show that the cameras aren't rolling on as to why they didn't move in together.
It was never discussed, and I don't even think we saw his family except for once at the hospital, but they didn't even mention that was mom, dad, aunt, nothing. So his family is obviously not involved or something. I thought that was very different.
There could be some really interesting reason, or it could just be that it's just a different culture than we've seen so far with the families. But don't forget, the really big difference is that so the show is called 16 and Pregnant, and usually the woman is the mother, is the youngest. Right. And so this is the first time we've had one of the main characters is actually below 16. So my thought is that, it could be something really interesting, or it could be that the parents of the 15-year-old didn't even for a second consider that their son, who was 14 like a couple months ago, is going to go be daddy in this other house. And what's he going to do? He didn't even got a work permit yet, or driving permit. So I think it could just be something as simple as, okay, why would we even consider that? He can do absolutely nothing there. Nothing. Except flunk out of school and
wake up in the middle of the night and help her.
Well, okay. Yeah, he can do that.
And bond with the baby.
He can so he can
Okay, thanks.
He can do those things, but my point is that he can't do anything to improve himself to be able to, provide or take care or anything like that for the long term. At this point at 15, if really 14 and a half is how we feel about it.
Stop judging about age.
Listen, I just I think that's a really big factor in this episode, and I think that could be the sort of more boring reason why they didn't even talk about the guy moving over there. He's a football player. Maybe he's gonna, who knows, go to college. Who knows? Like you said, they didn't talk about it too much, so it's all conjecture.
Yeah. Well, let's go into a quick commercial break before we go back for a little bit of 16 Pregnant news and gossip and a little bit more on this episode.
Want to find out what the AFTERBUZZ is about?
Janice is a drama queen.
This is the divide that is going to carry the series.
Give us a call. 424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
It's television, and they want it to be as dramatic as possible.
I mean, it's Shakespearean.
You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
Find out why AFTERBUZZ TV is the #1 source for after-show content.
Now, in the eyes of Jimmy, Nucky is a villain.
424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
Who would you guys rather hear that from? Your husband or your best friend?
The wig! The wig will come out.
When the TV show is over, get your AfterBuzz on. AfterBuzz TV News.
So in our first piece of news, last week's couple, Isabel Tovar and her boyfriend Gyro, are now engaged. They just announced their engagement yesterday. They were featured on last week's episode, and apparently now they're ready to get married. So this is a bit of happy news in 16 and pregnant newsland, because a couple that's actually seems like they're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, well,
I like them.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, I did, and I like them together. It was good.
That was a bad,
nice couple.
Absent host.
Well, let's wish them all the best. And another piece of news that's not so happy, but honestly, in our news and gossip segments, is not that surprising. Dun, 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 yet another arrest, but this time it's not one of the girls, it's not one of the guys, but one of their mothers, 37-year-old April Michelle Purvis. She's the mother of Whitney Purvis, who appeared on the first season of 16 and Pregnant. She was arrested Sunday morning in Rome, Georgia for drug possession after allegedly being caught with meth and pot during a routine road check. She was taken into custody in Floyd County after a canine unit searched of her car.
Wow. That's just sad news right there. That's all that is.
Road check. Maybe she was on her way to, make sure her daughter was taking the birth control. And look what happened. She got arrested.
You think it was birth control and not meth?
Yeah.
It just was just a mistake. You should be an attorney. I think that's an excellent defense.
Thanks. You know what's so shocking to me is not just the arrest, but the fact that she's a 37-year-old grandmother. My mom wasn't even pregnant with me at 37, yet alone being a grandmother.
That's true. That's true.
Everything happens faster nowadays.
Yeah, and finally, I'm not sure if you guys heard about this. This was in the news. You guys know Chelsea Handler. She's the host of Chelsea Lately. So in a recent interview with the New York Times, she told them that she actually had an abortion when she discovered she was 16 and pregnant, and I applaud her for being honest. And she said, quote, "I had an abortion when I was 16 because that's what I should have done. Otherwise, I would now have a 20-year-old kid. Anyways, those are the things that people shouldn't be dishonest about." And then she told the paper about 16 and Pregnant, the show, quote, "We're seeking out such grossness in human behavior and want such mindless entertainment. 16 and Pregnant. Getting rewarded for being pregnant when you're a teenager? Are you serious? I mean, that makes me want to kill somebody."
Wow. That is a bold statement right there.
Hanging out with
I mean, it is Chelsea Handler, so you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But I applaud her for being honest.
You know what? That takes some courage to admit that, because, invariably you are going to be judged when you share some information like that about yourself. Someone's going to judge you, and they shouldn't, but they will.
She's been judged enough. It's okay. She dated 25 Cent, or what's his name? 50 Cent?
50.
25
Cent. She said that they didn't date.
I know.
No, she admitted. She admitted they dated.
When someone who's in the public spotlight admits to an abortion, I really think, because that is another option that is just not discussed frequently enough. So I think it's important. I think her opinions about 16 and Pregnant were a little strong, because we've discussed before that we hope that girls aren't seeking the fame for it. Right. But the fact that she used the words "that makes me want to kill somebody" is a little strong. Yeah. But then again, you have to take everything a comedian says like that with a grain of salt.
Right. Yep, for sure.
So before, I actually don't have any predictions this week because I wasn't able to see the preview for next week. Did you guys see it?
Yes, I predict that in this next.
Can I interrupt before we go to predictions? Sorry, Mari. I did this will only take a second, but I did a little bit of sort of research on
1 second.
Text. Yeah, 1 second, a long second, but a second is still short. So. Basically, when I was watching this episode and we were talking about the adoption, or when they were talking about the adoption, it was really something that everybody seemed to be looking to Kianna to kind of decide. And so, you know me, I'm always trying to make sure that we shed light on the father's rights. And so, you know, my thought was, well, what happens if the mom says, I want to give up for adoption, but the dad says no? So that was really the question that I was trying to get answered. I didn't get it answered specifically. I mean, I know in California that, you know, by default, if you are a parent, then you have joint legal and physical custody of the child just by mere fact of the, you know, genetic fact that you're the father or the mother. But what I did find in that search was some very interesting stuff about Texas that's very different than what we have here. In Texas, right now, minors can consume alcohol as long as their parents are there. Texas underage drinking. They are allowed to have alcohol, possess it, as long as their parent is there. But check this, they specifically say in the law here, possession is prohibited for minors except if the parent or guardian or spouse is there. So you know, so you've got a situation where a minor is married, and if the spouse is there, and it doesn't actually say if the spouse has to be an adult, but I'm sure they do, then it's okay for the minor to drink. Anyway, it just occurred to me that it seemed like, you know what, depending on the maturity level of the parents, and in some of these shows we've seen some questionable ones, how much of a good idea is it to have, you know, kids drinking and stuff like that? Anyway, that struck me as very interesting about it. And then I did find a section on law with regard to minor parents, and when I searched for that, it was really, really difficult to find something in the law that specifically addressed parents who are also minors. And one interesting thing that the listeners might want to know is that in Texas, if a minor is a parent and they have to go and, say, apply for child support or to get some public assistance or whatever, they can't go by themselves because they're a minor, and they have to have a parent or guardian go with them. But the parent or guardian is not called a parent or guardian. The official name for the person that goes with them is called a next friend. And I have no idea why, but I just also found that interesting. In Texas, if you're a minor and you have a child, in order to go get any help from the government or the state or file paperwork to get child support or custody, you have to bring your next friend, and that's the official name for the person. So just some interesting stuff about how Texas is different.
Thank you for sharing those statistics. I think you should be our official statistician because Maria Kanellis, when she came on a couple weeks ago, she was our official statistician, but we haven't had her on again, so I need someone to provide me with the statistics. So, Ed, it's now your responsibility.
All righty. I'll take it.
Okay, so why don't we get into some quick predictions before we say goodbye to our listeners?
So my prediction is...
my prediction is that maybe this next episode, adoption will actually happen.
Well, you know what? I was really put off by this preview because the dad called the woman, the mom, names. And that's mean, and there's never a reason or justification to be mean to anybody, anywhere, anytime. He called her stupid, and you're something else, or... you're a dumbass or something like that.
Stupid's okay. What? I call you that every day.
That doesn't mean it's okay. And that's why I'm divorcing you right now.
Well, it'll be an interesting episode to watch, and I'm happy to have the three of us back together, and hopefully Courtney and Mindy Maria will be with us next week. And thank you so much for discussing Kianna with us. I tweeted at her and Facebook at her, and she has done that too, so if she's going to next week, I'll let you know. But thank you so much, and thank you so much for the show.
From producers Kevin Undergaro and Phil Svitek, engineer DJ Jesse Janity, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. If you have questions or comments, be sure to buzz us at info@AfterBuzzTV.com. And you can find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for AfterBuzz TV.
views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.